Is the V-Strom 1000 a proper adventure touring motorcycle? Stay tuned to find out. Greetings riders, Nick here with Pegasus Motorcycle Tours and Consulting, bringing you yet another motorcycle gear and lifestyle review. What I have for you today is my very own 2007 Suzuki DL1000, the V-Strom. Now, as you know, there's a long-standing argument out there whether or not the V-Strom is a proper adventure touring motorcycle. This video in particular is dedicated to finally, once and for all, answering that question. Is the V-Strom a proper motorcycle adventure touring vehicle? In my conclusion, I must say, absolutely. With the proper outfit, the V-Strom is a very capable bike, and this particular model, which I've outfitted from head to toe, is Armageddon ready. I would be ready to take this around the world tomorrow. That's how much confidence I have in this particular bike. The V-Strom is a supremely capable machine. It's powered by a 60 cubic inch 1000cc Suzuki V-twin engine, the same engine that was previously used in the legendary TL, after which placed in the Suzuki SVs, all bikes that I've owned that I utterly loved. Absolutely amazing machines that'll keep a smile on your face. Very torquey, and with a weight of only about 520 pounds and a carrying capacity of 5.8 or 22 liters of gasoline, you are going to be able to really make some adventures with this bike. Now, that said, there absolutely are some things that you have to do to this bike before you're ready to take it off-road more than anything. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to run through some of the gear that I have, aftermarket parts for this particular bike, to have it ready for off-road adventure touring, after which the only limit is the rider itself. So, in my opinion, the main parts you're going to have to upgrade are going to be an addition of the engine guard. The engine guard itself comes in many different styles from many different manufacturers. They're plentiful, they're not terribly expensive, and they're very, very well made and protected. They're going to protect your plastic, they're going to protect your engine case, and it's just an obvious upgrade if you ever take this bike off the road. It's not particularly heavy. It's at 520 pounds wet. That's actually on the smaller side of leader bikes out there that are adventure tour capable. Now, that said, you will lose footing, it's guaranteed, and you will drop the bike even if it's at very low speeds. So you're going to want to make sure that the engine is protected. After the engine guard, what you're going to want to upgrade and add is a skid plate. The skid plate is absolutely essential. You will scrape the bottom of this bike because the travel on the suspension is not very inspiring. It's actually quite limiting for off-road, and that's one of the negatives of the bike, which we'll talk about later. However, the skid plates protects the engine case, the oil pan, the oil filter, the exhaust system, and it's absolutely necessary. Now, when choosing a skid plate, obviously quality matters, and there are many manufacturers out there that create awesome skid plates out of aluminum, even steel. What you're going to want to think about, though, is how easy will it be to replace the engine oil and the filter with that skid plate. Are you going to need to take the whole thing off, or is there a front part that comes off by itself giving you access to the filter? Keep that in mind, because that's going to make this work much easier. Now, after you've done the skid plate and the engine guard, the next obvious improvement is going to be the tires. Remember, tires are your only point of contact with the road, so you're going to want to invest in tires that you feel most comfortable with in the wet as well as the dry. My experience is that the Shinko's 704, 705 combo for the front and rear is excellent. And one, it looks so aggressive and so nice. Makes me just want to be off-road on them. Now, they're not perfect, they're not amazing, but they're very affordable and they're very capable tires. So there's the hide now. There's many other options that you can research. Feel free to hop in your local Cycle Gear. They are the motorcycle experts, and they have many tires in stock. They're able to install for you as well, so there's no better place. There's one more essential upgrade that you're going to need to make, and that's the addition of bark busters. Now, bark busters have multiple functions, all protection. Protection from the elements, from the wind, from the storms, from the cold, from the rain, and protection for your bike, protection for your levers, and protection for your hands. Think about it, even if you're going through brush can actually activate your brake and make you have an accident. This prevents that. The bark busters are an essential upgrade that you need to consider, and I cannot tell you how many times I've kissed the dirt, even in unexpected stretches of very easy dirt road, where bark busters saved the day. Think about it. The levers are fairly cheap, $15 parts, but if you break it, you can't make it out of there, unless you, of course, have tools and a replacement to fix the issue with. So the bark buster is absolutely an essential upgrade that you need to consider. Everything that I'm going to recommend from now on is basically for comfort. Now, that's arguable. However, my touring has taught me that the essentials that I've listed are literally the essentials. Everything else is just for comfort, such as the seat. Now, if you don't find the stock seat comfortable enough, there's a plethora of options out there to upgrade the seat. Some are actually lighter, some are more comfortable, obviously, and some are more functional. For example, the Sargent seat has a little toolbox underneath the seat where you can keep lighter stuff such as rags or something to that effect. So it's kind of nice to integrate a storage unit into a seat, right? Storage is key in some of these trips. So with a proper upgraded seat, you might be able to do more miles, which might be in your interest. If you're doing less miles on dirt, the seat, I find stock seat of the V-Strom very comfortable and very adequate. Now let's consider luggage and carrying capacity. This is going to be key to any trip, whether it be a weekend excursion or a multi-month international adventure. As you know, I strongly prefer and suggest that you go with soft luggage if you intend on taking the V-Strom anywhere off-road. That's because soft luggage is lighter, it's cheaper, it's easier to repair, it's typically narrower, and it's just more sensible to take it on places where you know you'll drop the bike. That said, hard bags have their place, definitely, mostly in urban areas where you need lockable watertight storage. However, for any trip that involves dirt riding where you're probably going to dump the bike, you're going to want something that's lighter, that's easier to repair, and soft luggage is the only option, really. So keep in mind also the wide profile of the hard bags makes it difficult to even lane split. Never mind be off-road where you can scratch it, as I have here, where it can easily break, where it can easily fail. And then when you're stuck out there without any bags, that's really going to ruin your trip. So consider soft luggage, consider strapping it down with rock straps, which I've been using for years. I can't recommend enough. They are durable, they're long-lasting, they're dependable, and they're going to keep your stuff super tight on your bike. What I do is I basically pack a hiking pack with all the gear that I need that's going to be reviewed in a subsequent video for any trip, whether it be a weekend trip or a multi-month trip, and I strap those down with just 2 pieces of rock straps, and that holds it down perfectly tight. What soft luggage provides is also a cushion when you do take a hit. So for example, riding in the city at night, I was entering the highway, and for some reason this highway is made such that the entrance is divided from the actual highway with a wall, and there's one entrance and a second entrance and then the highway, and I was coming in the corner pretty fast. I did not see that there was another entrance behind me, and I looked kind of late taking that corner too fast, and I actually kissed that wall. With this V-Strom, my front tire climbed in the little 90-degree nook of the wall and the asphalt, and my luggage hit that wall. Luckily, I had the soft cases back then, and I just scraped, and I rode off no problem. If it were these, it might have been a very, very ugly ending. So point of the story is, when you drop the bike, you're going to want luggage that you can depend on, that's easy to repair. When I was touring in Europe, I basically would stop at a shoe shop every time I would have an issue with my Oxford bags, mostly with the zipper, and the shoe repair person would repair it with a needle, and we'll be off in 15 minutes. So definitely consider soft luggage when you're actually doing some touring that involves any kind of dirt whatsoever. Keeping with the topic of luggage carrying capacity, what you're going to want to do is also invest in a really good tank bag. I ride with the Motocentric tank bag. It's basically a backpack. It comes with straps that you can put on the bag itself and carry it as a backpack when you take off for a few hours or you go into the restaurant. All your main documents, your main equipment is right there. It's magnetic. It comes off really easily. It's very convenient. It's very durable, and it's got a water bag inside as well, so you can drink while you ride. You don't have to stop. You can keep hydrated, which is key to concentration, key to comfort, key to longevity, right? So invest in a good tank bag. If you ride on a KLR, you can even ride the Joe Rocket tank bags here on the side. They will, the tank of the KLR is so large that it will accommodate those. And what I used to do is ride with the red one on one side, in which I would place all my first aid kit, the tourniquet, etc. If, God forbid, I was found on the side of the road, anybody would be able to associate the red color with the essential first aid kits. So that's another really good suggestion, I think, for anybody who's especially riding alone. Another addition that you might seriously consider is a windscreen. Wind protection is key to battling fatigue on the road, and fatigue on the road on a motorcycle is deadly. So a tall windscreen that's going to protect you from the elements and from the wind is I would say fairly essential. You could be the judge of that. When you consider a windscreen, what I would suggest is that you invest in a clear windscreen. Nobody who rides a bike likes to be staring through a screen itself, so if it's clear, that makes it that much easier to see the road in front of you, especially if it's dirt. I also like to have a windscreen that's fully adjustable, that you can absolutely slide down and almost remove from your line of vision, so that you can see down the road when you're going 5, 10, 15 miles an hour on those very difficult dirt tracks. Keep that in mind. Stay off the very tall, dark screens. They're not your friend when it comes to motorcycle adventure touring. Now, continuing with the luggage carrying capacity, what's going to augment that is also an item that I always install on any bike that I own, that I intend to take on any adventure touring, which is all of them. And that's basically going to be a really useful hard case plastic container, a welding rod holder. It's a container that holds welding rods. It's watertight. It's got a little rubber gasket that closes the top of it. And I basically install it either here or in the front. If it's in the case of a KLR, you can put two of them right behind the front wheel. They act as also a protection against the little rocks that the front wheel picks up. On the side, they act as protection when you tip the bike over. They take the brunt of the force. They warp, and if they break, they're $12 at Lowe's or at any of the hardware stores. So I would highly suggest looking into welding rod holders for your tools, for any of the heavier equipment that you're going to want to keep down. And for all those evenings where you want to have a little more fun by the campfire, they're large enough to hold a whole bottle of wine. So keep that in mind. Other creature comforts for long tours is we have highway pegs here. I don't find that position all that comfortable, to be honest. So instead of highway pegs, which also might serve as a primitive form of minute protection in slow tips, I say invest instead in foot pegs that are such that you can stand on, that are intended to be more grippy instead of the stock rubber ones, which can warp, which can rip, and you don't want to be losing your footing when you're standing on your pegs. So invest in some hardcore off-road pegs that you are going to have confidence in, where even your wet sole is not going to slip from them. As you know, you're going to do a lot of the dirt standing, so you can see the road, so you can maneuver better. So just invest in some more confidence-inspiring pegs. Another fairly important and helpful addition to your bike is going to be that of a center stand. The center stand will make maintenance of the rear tire and the chain much easier, and also parking on some uneven gravel is going to be made much easier with the center stand. So invest in one. It also, you can find center stands with a protecting plate to protect the bottom of the bike as well, almost like an extension of the skid plate. The best thing about the V-Strom is that it comes in two options for all kinds of riders, the 650 and the 1000. My personal philosophy when it comes to bikes is none of us buy it to go slow. We never say, oh, I could go a little slower. I think we always appreciate the power, so I always opt for the bigger engine. That's just how I like to ride. However, the 650 is lighter And if you're going to spend more time off-road, you have to consider the weight. Weight is key. Weight is absolutely key when it comes to off-road riding. So if the 30-pound difference matters to you, by all means, opt for the 650. They are readily available. They're usually very well equipped, and they are budget friendly. Also, the brakes on the V-Strom are admirable. It comes with 2 rotors in the front, and they grip. They're strong. On the new V-Stroms, the ABS models, they don't have a button to turn that off, so you're going to have to pull the plug or keep turning it off every time you stop. But that's the same on a GS, for example. So be sure to, an older GS I should say. So just keep that in mind when selecting your particular V-Strom, what options you're going to want to look for. Now consider the amount of weight you're going to carry, especially if you're going to carry a passenger. At higher speeds, the V-Strom does tend to wiggle a little bit, sometimes even to a point of being scary for newer riders. So consider a really easy addition to help alleviate that problem is going to be the fork brace. The fork brace is going to stabilize that front end of the bike, and you're going to have a much smoother ride. A little discussion about the front end of the bike itself. As you'll see here, I have a ram mount. They're great. They're metal. They're super durable. They'll last you forever, and they're very versatile. What I would say, I suggest that you get the extension, the 5-inch extension, because it makes the phone or the GPS system right in front of your face. You don't have to look down. From experience, I'll tell you that it's very easy to get off the road, be distracted by a phone, even if you just put your eyesight down by a split second. So be sure to extend that as high as it'll go. You'll notice this particular bike is equipped with the extenders for the mirrors. What these allow you to do is have a better visibility behind you and around you. It's a quick, easy, fairly inexpensive upgrade of your mirror system. You'll also notice I have a bolt here where the old bolt used to be before the addition of the bark busters. This bolt was a recommendation of a very amazing gentleman who found me stranded off-road. He pulled up on his Goldwing while I had the KLR completely stripped in 109-degree weather in Northern California. And he took me to his home, and it turns out in this tiny little town of Jackson, California, this was the only motorcycle mechanic who had $50,000 worth of gear in his garage and all the equipment that he needs to work on Goldwings. And what happened was my neutral light was rubbing, and it caused a short. So I would ride for a few miles and the bike would just die. I had no knowledge of the electrical systems or how to repair it, and I was very lucky. And after he worked on my bike, repaired it, found the fault, he suggested that I add this add this little bolt. And this bolt is super useful, mainly for helmet. You place your helmet there, you can place your jacket. You don't have to place it on your seat, because if you place your helmet on the seat, it's inevitably going to fall, and that is not a good way to end the day. There's nothing worse than scratched lenses. That's my personal pet peeve. So what I do to prevent that for smaller items like glasses and your wallet, for example, I buy a little bicycle bag made by Bell. Typically you can find that at a Target store at the bicycle section, and that basically adds very, very easily and simply here to the front end of the bike, and it doesn't get in your way, and you're able to access your main things that you use every day, such as your glasses, for example. So consider that addition, as well as raising these bars. If you intend on riding a lot of off-road, you're going to want to stand on your foot pegs, and if you're a particularly taller person, you're going to want to raise these bars by at least an inch or two so that the bars are more comfortable. You're not in that awkward position where your back hurts at the end of every day. Forget where we're located, but I'm here with my friend John. We're close to Joshua Tree, close to Anza Borrego, and we decided to take the 2 V-Stroms out on some dirt roads around here and camp out for the night. It was a beautiful night, kind of cold. I think it's about 45 degrees at the moment, and we're getting ready to continue. But the purpose of this video was to help those who are looking into a adventure touring bike on a fairly tighter budget, let's say, and are looking to buy used, to help those decide if the V-Strom is good enough for these kinds of adventures. Needless to say, obviously the conclusion is going to be, yeah, it is, because look where we are, look what we're doing. In my opinion, I think the V-Strom is one hell of a bike, and something that's a machine that's capable to take you around the world tomorrow if you're ready for it. The suspension, I think, is limiting on it. However, in good hands, I think it could be overcome. So this V-Strom, I did a review on that a few weeks ago for you, and I ended up selling it to John. And then I called John yesterday and I said, John, do you want to go for a ride? Because immediately after selling it, I was kind of disappointed that I don't have the machine ready to take me on these adventures anymore. So I looked on Craigslist. Sure enough, there was another one. That's the beauty of the V-Stroms. You can find them fairly easily. But there was another one that was very similarly equipped, and I'll show you right now. Equipped enough to be able to go off-road. As you can see, some of the basic upgrades are skid plate, very, very necessary. The engine guard, obviously very necessary. It's got high weight pegs. I don't really use those very much. What else? It's got a touring windscreen. This one in particular is not really adjustable. I don't adjust it as long as it's clear. I don't mind. It's got a wider adapter here for wider mirrors. Other than that, it's pretty much stock. It's got a center stand, of course, and the Givi side cases. And I was telling John from my previous video, you know that I prefer the soft cases. Case in point, he crashed yesterday and there was no damage. Now, if I crash like that, what would I do with my broken $600 Givi cases? Throw them out. But you can see he crashed pretty seriously, but there's no damage to the bike. And as I mentioned previously, these tubes are very useful, in particular for that reason, besides being very useful for carrying tools, very low to the center of gravity. So, is the V-Strom a good touring bike? It's a great touring bike. Is the V-Strom a proper adventure touring bike? I'd say yes. We took it on some gnarly roads yesterday, and we did just fine. I mean, depends how you pack it and how comfortable you feel off-road. The suspension is very limiting. That's I think, to be clear. However, I did the same kinds of roads on the V-Strom that a very good rider who used to be an amateur racer, dirt racer, did in his GS 1200, and I made it out that day. So it's not, I enjoyed every minute of it too. It's not unthinkable that you would take one of these machines where the GSs can go. GSs being kind of the standard, right? That prompted the whole sector of the industry of adventure touring. So I think a V-Strom is a great investment. You can find them low mileage, not a lot of money. This one is as basic as it's going to get for your touring needs, to be able to take it off-road and know that you're going to be able to make it back home, right? It's not a bike that's going to leave you stranded anywhere. You saw my review of this particular bike. It's straight decked out. It's got so many upgrades and it's ready to go. This one, a little bit less so, but it's got the bare minimum to be able to award me these opportunities. So, what does John think? Is the V-Strom a legit adventure touring bike?
I love it. This is the third weekend I've gone out, taking on a lot of fire roads, and great on the street too.
Yeah, we started the day yesterday with the BMW Owners Club, and they meet every weekend in San Diego, and they ride fast. Wow, I mean, they ride really fast. But they stayed on asphalt yesterday, so we split after a few hours and did our own thing. Wanted to do some fire roads. That was the whole point. I didn't have any issues. It was very fun yesterday. So yeah, keeps up. I think we were doing 80 miles an hour in those curves and kept up, no problem. You could drag your knee on this bike even with these tires, no problem. So that's the benefit of it. And I think if you have to choose between the 650 and the 1000, as you all know, my philosophy is, why choose the smaller engine if the bigger engine is readily available? Nobody's ever said I need less power than that. Sure, off-road you're not going to be able to use all of that, but this is a touring machine. You'll spend 80% of your time on asphalt, and you want it to be able to carry passenger or carry gear. So to conclude, V-Strom, one hell of a bike. Can't go wrong. You'll be happy with it. Nick out. Cheers. Because this bike has not very strong motherfucker.
This is all going to the blooper reel.
We're gonna get tanned here.
I know.
Let me know if I get like, you know, disheveled.
You said think about it twice.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Stop saying think about it.
Okay. I'll think about
Thank
it.
you very much.
We're gonna get tanned.
I know.
Could you ride that up the stairs?
I can.
You look like you could.
Thank you.
Jesse James, baby.
Thank you. That's a compliment.